Dark Nexus. Tonight, it's Act 3, Chapter 94. It's the end of Day 5, Mile 44, the end of a dreary, rainy day, but a day where Dora finally finished learning how to cast the Dreamlands excursion ritual. So this is a good time to chat about this. Let me tee you up with a few things here. How about I review for you real quick the relevant things you learned at the tail end of Act 2, which we recorded, well over half a year ago now at this point. Yeah. So maybe it's not super fresh to you all. And then we can all sound off on, where your characters are sitting with why they're out here and what they're after. So TLDR, we learned that Count Lowls is in search of a city called Neruzavin, because he believes it to be where Jamandor's physical body can be found. We don't know exactly what he plans to do if he finds it, but it certainly can't be good. We're several weeks behind him, and we don't know where Neruzavin is, but we do know that Lowls' first stop is in Casimir, to hook up with his old buddy Myacnean Mun, and perhaps to obtain an entirely new group of mercenary bodyguards. We may be able to either catch up to him or at least pick up his trail there. So for those of you focused a little bit more on the real world, interested in either stopping Lowls before he can find Jamandor, or even just flat out killing him out of revenge for enslaving you and fucking up your entire lives, That is one path ahead of us. Also, we discovered that Lowls learned of the location of Neruzavin, or maybe how to learn its location, we're not sure, from the Mad Poet in his oasis at the outer reaches of the Dreamlands desert. And in exchange for that information, he sacrificed his 5 allies, your memories, experiences, and selfhoods, and he gave them to the Mad Poet. So there are a variety of reasons each of you might have an interest in actually visiting the Mad Poet. If you want your memories back, it seems like that's where you might need to go. If you want to find out where Neruzavin is or how to find out, and maybe either cut Lowls off or even get out ahead of him, that's also where it seems like you need to go. You know that to reach the Mad Poet, you set out from what Lowls and Tima called the Forsaken Caravanserai in the Dreamlands, and that is exactly where the ritual Dora just learned drops you off.
Neruzavin is real world as opposed to Dreamlands, correct?
Correct. You also know that in order to even approach the Mad Poet, you need to bring special gifts. You do not know what gifts would be suitable, but you do have this carefully curated collection of now 21 books from this special footlocker. You flip through them all now. They are on wildly disparate topics, but not totally disparate. As players, you have indeed noticed some common themes and names cropping up, and the books are all filled with notes written by Tima and Lowls in the margins. It is certainly safe to assume that some discoveries about appropriate gifts were either gleaned from or recorded in those materials, but there is a piece of the puzzle that you're missing still. You can tell that these books are going to be so useful, but you do need to be pointed in some specific directions. And that is also where the Forsaken Caravanserai might come in. Dora knows from reading Lowls' journals that when he started his research on these gifts, he used the Caravanserai as his hub, as his resource. He talked to travelers there, and that's how he and Tima's road to discovery, road to research began. So, you now have the ability to travel to the Dreamlands, specifically to the Forsaken Caravanserai. Let's talk about how and when and if you even want to do that.
And also, this means that we would be walking into yet another place where we are known because we were there before.
You were there before.
So we're going to be walking into the same kind of situation where people think that they know us, have already had experiences with us. We don't know that, and we don't know what they know about us.
That seems true. As Dora reflects on how Tima and Lowls recorded this information about visiting there, it does sound like the kind of place that kind of stays the same like the building and the people who work there are part of the dream, but travelers come and go. So there may be certainly employees or key figures there who would know exactly who you are and remember you. But I think Dora would assume, it's probably a different group of travelers.
It's not going to be like an entire town that recognizes Grip.
It doesn't seem likely that would be the case. You could, I think Johnny, to Johnny's point, you would probably assume some people there might know you, but not exclusively, not like everybody, like you just dealt with last book.
Yeah.
And right as of now, assuming everything goes smooth as silk.
Always does.
We're how many days/weeks out of Casimir?
I did want to point out that my favorite part of all these sessions is looking at the map.
I was going to ask
and
if
the
that
big
boat
pink line of our journey and how very, very, very little way we've come.
I was assuming he needed to move the boat a little bit,
Oh,
but
yes.
maybe not.
You will not be able to tell when he moves the boat.
I have.
Yeah.
So Robert, to answer that question, you're assuming it's probably a 3-month journey and you're on day 5.
Gotcha.
So if you have priorities like, let's get clear of these madnesses before we go to the Dreamlands, you could conceivably take a week and
not take any
hunker
sanity
down,
damage.
not take any sanity damage. Let Grip and Vic and Dora make those checks when they hit that 7-day mark, and then venture in when you feel like, okay, we've got ourselves put together, we're ready to tackle this new challenge. But it's also, you have literally no idea what kind of clock you're on in either. I mean, you have a sense of your clock in the real world, like to your question right there, Robert, but you don't know anything really about what's happening in the Dimension of Dreams right now.
When traveling to the Dimension of Dreams, does time work the same way on the world, on Golarion?
One of the things that Dora learned is that if you go to the Dreamlands, which is this very special sort of, I've been calling it a neighborhood of the Dimension of Dreams, a more controlled, a more finite, a slightly more stable piece of it. And if you use this ritual, you know that no matter what the hell happens to you there, no matter whether you visit for 5 minutes there or 200 years, your body will wake up 6 to 8 hours later in the real world. And that is whether you go in and die there, whether you go in and extract yourself there, it kind of doesn't matter. If you use this ritual and you go to this part, you're going to wake up at that chunk of time later. And you also know from a purely adventuring standpoint, just to remind you, you get these special bodies when you use this ritual that have everything that you have when you entered, and nothing that you use there is used up. So you can cast all of your spells all night. You can use all of the charges on your wands. You can blow through everything except for action points. And when you wake up the next morning, you've got everything that you had when you went to bed the previous night. All of your hit point damage gone. The only things that carry over are damage or drain to your mental ability scores. And then I think you all remember the whole thing about don't die because you'll come back mad.
Twice, right? You have to die twice for that to happen. Am I making that up?
Oh, you go mad the first time you come back. No save. Die twice and it's a greater madness.
Mm-hmm.
When you fall asleep
Yep.
in the ritual, do you stay asleep the whole time? If you wake up, if someone tries to wake you in the middle of the dream, in the middle of the ritual, what happens? Something terrible happen to you? It seems like something would.
It seems as though they will not be able to.
So Dabwick's concerned as we are the protectors of the rest of the people on this ship.
But that was also part of the deal of bringing some of the other backup buddies basically with us, that they would be responsible for that.
But they have to be part of the ritual, I believe, for us to guarantee success.
Yes, but they don't have to. But they can
go.
stay.
Yeah.
Yes. So we had talked a little bit. I think this was a couple months ago between sessions about one of the roles that Barnabas and Stasi are going to play is taking part in the ritual and then taking the role of ship protectors from you while you are unable to do this. Skywind has an understanding that this is happening, and it seems as though, because of this deep trust that she has with this relationship of some time with Dabwick, that until and unless something happens that causes her to reevaluate how comfortable she is with that, you have earned a lot of her trust from her.
When we do this ritual,
Yes.
do we lose that night of sleep? Are we fatigued the next day?
Now, that is actually one of the most amazing things is you can effectively have 2 entire adventuring days per day because you wake up fully rested and prepared. For the
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's wild. It really is like 2 entire days of
One in the real world,
Yep.
one in the dream ones.
Yep.
Really, really cool.
I will say too, it is also a question of as I'm going along and magicking things up
Yeah.
and enchanting things, then those are items that we're able to bring with us into the dream world.
Correct.
That make us much more powerful. So this is also something to consider.
Yes. And this is one of those areas where all these choices are entirely yours. Like, wait a couple months to go into the Dreamlands, go tonight, see what it's like, make a decision.
Dora
like,
wants to go tonight,
it's all,
see what it's like.
It's all up to you.
All right, I'm torn right now. I got to tell you, because right now I don't feel my brain working against me, and I know if we can wait a little bit longer, like I feel like I can kick this thing. But at the same time, we don't know what we don't know, and the longer we wait to find out, could be really bad news. What does everybody think?
I want to go.
No, I want to go too, but
I'm so terrified of the things at our doorstep. We've got the ship following us and this rat witch.
The rat witch.
The rat witch ashore. Are we really ready to leave Skywin and our friends?
Will we ever be?
That's
Dangers abound. They do not decrease.
well, no, Dabs, they've got a point.
yeah. My
I mean-
question's not rhetorical. It's real. Are we? I don't think
My
it's
answer
safe.
isn't rhetorical either.
I think you're putting off the question. I mean, I know you want to go. I don't feel like I'm comfortable leaving now.
What would it take to make you feel comfortable going?
I would like to know more about what's behind us. I'd like to have a better sense of how we can attack it or protect from it before we leave our friends alone.
You are referring to the ship.
I'm referring to the ship mainly, yeah. But the rat witch too.
Would you want to scry upon it?
I'm going to prepare scries from now on. I'll talk to the captain about that.
What other information, what other means of gleaning information do we have at our disposal? My only fear is inaction and losing time gathering information for what lies ahead, and not to discount your concern for what is behind us.
Well, I don't want to say go without me, but
No, we won't do that.
Yeah. Well,
you could. If you're just going to get information at this caravan.
It could be very useful to have someone there whose visage has never been there before.
that's true.
You got that at still?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's in my bag here.
It is not in your bag here.
What the fuck?
You tell me, Johnny. I don't know. It's not there.
Oh, no, I left it, I left it in, Grip's, room. In the donjon.
Yeah, maybe.
Did fucking Nix take it?
I don't know.
Is that his big idea?
I bet that bastard stole it.
That
Somehow.
may have been wrapped up in his big idea. Sure.
Fuck.
We also have a young girl who has specifically stolen things that disappeared off of people's sheets
Yeah.
in the past.
I guess that's true.
Bored.
Boring.
The unpredictable nature of what we're intending, I would be very uncomfortable with anything less than a full complement of our team, even for a reconnaissance mission.
And I to be a wet blanket.
You're not, but I do want there to be concrete goals that can be met, expectations to be set. I think that's fair.
Am I the only one that feels this way?
I'm torn between the two myself. I think getting some information sooner rather than later about what is in the Dreamlands is helpful, but also I feel so fucking close to my brain being right
Yeah.
that given the length of the journey that's ahead of us, right? And how much we're all sort of in, those of us that are still trying to get our heads screwed on right, we're looking at a relatively similar.
The longest time
Grit
is
doesn't
7
know
days.
this is Robert's question. We're looking at a similar amount of time, right? That we would need to, assuming we make rolls, get our heads back.
I did a little bit of math anticipating a question like this. And let me throw one number out at you and see if it is worth talking about. If you were to wait 8 days,
A little bit more than a week.
just a little bit more than a week, Grip would have had numerous opportunities to get rid of his madness. Vic would have had numerous opportunities to get rid of his. Dora would have had a few opportunities to get rid of hers, but her will save is so high and she can boost it. She is more likely, frankly, obviously, than you to get rid of it on a 1 or 2 saves. Also, Johnny's first crafting project would be complete by that point. Then Paul could say, okay, that gives me X days to do whatever. Dora could say, this gives me X days to, maybe I want to read the Narcotic manuscripts or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
So as like one possible window of time that's not a month, but would like actually give you some meaningful checks to make to move on
Say-
for some things.
Let's do a week, and then we go from there.
I feel comfortable with that, and doing every day during that week, checking up and down the river, scrying on them as much as possible, getting as much information as we can.
That makes sense to me.
Agreed.
All right.
All right.
All right.
And so, 8 days pass for our intrepid travelers. It's a relatively quiet stretch of time spent mostly out in the open waters. The air gets chillier and chillier as we descend closer and closer to the end of the year. At some point in the voyage, you'll start getting far enough south that you can expect things to warm up significantly, but this is not yet that point. Land is frequently out of sight this week. Periodically, you catch sight of the jagged, rugged shoreline of Rasmurin off to the east. In fact, on the 18th of Neth, Dabbs finally catches sight, once again, of the terrible, giant flea that's stalking you. Similar scene to last time, staring, twitching of mouth parts and antennae, and then massive leaps to the south and out of view. We'll check back in with you, Polly. On the 18th and 19th, the ship would have been nearly becalmed if it weren't for Dabbs' magic. Much less distance covered those days. For a while in this stretch, the ever-present fog of Lake Encarthen thins a little bit, and you all actually catch sight of other merchant vessels sailing these waters, always to your west, further from shore. No one wants to run afoul of the Rasmurin, quote, faith barges, as their state-sanctioned religious pirate ships are called. Fortunately, you don't run afoul of any of those, but you do see ships from Multhune and Nirmathos. Those ships not only stay clear of Rasmurin, but studiously avoid each other. Nirmathos only wrested independence from Multhune 60-odd years ago. Relations are tense. You see ships from Lastwall and from Druma, ships from the River Kingdoms and from Galt, and I imagine there is a real sense of expanding horizons for Grip and Dora and Vic as their worlds start slowly but surely getting larger and larger, populated by more and more countries, filled with more and more different sorts of people with histories all their own, not like the histories of haunted Ustalav. On the 22nd, Otha and Skywind make another major heading shift as you leave Avalon Bay and head out into Lake Encarthen proper. They chart a course that will take you almost directly down to the mouth of the Glass River, staying well clear of both the Rasmurin capital of Throne Step to the east and the Isle of Terror to the west. You will never pass within sight of that island on this trip, but you do begin to catch sight of the ever-looming massive thunderstorms that perpetually enclose the island. Let's check in with the four of you and talk a little bit about what this week or so was like for each of you. Maybe we should make some sanity rolls first and see what those tell us about timing and so forth. Gripper.
Hello.
Beginning on the 18th, you've had a week of 0 sanity damage, dormancy, and no new sanity events. Let's make a roll for the 18th. This will be a will save, and Dabs can cast a lesser restoration that day to drop the DC by 2 if they want to prepare that spell every day.
Yes.
All right, give me a save.
14.
For the first time in this entire adventure, Grip is no longer filled with a phobia for bladed weapons.
Oh my god.
The first incident that kicked this entire story off, the thing that just, not permanently, but just enough broke his brain. On that day, he feels this weight lift, and he is able to, if he wishes, pick up a fucking longsword, swing it around, look as hard as he wants at Stasi covered in her daggers. It's a big day and it happens right away. I think he's been ready for this.
I think he wants to do some moulinets with an axe if there's one laying around.
Let's come back to that. Vic, beginning the day after Grip on the 19th, we can start checking for you, assuming Dabs has got a spell for him that day.
Yes, I've got a lesser restoration for you as well.
Give me a will save.
And when you do it,
Yeah.
I literally reach my hand out to hold yours.
Oh, yes.
All right.
He's going to fill the save and then punch you.
Absolutely. What the fuck, man?
Yes.
Dabs.
Okay, Johnny.
All right. That is a 17.
And for the first time since Chapter 50, Vic no longer is suffering from paranoia. Free and clear, my friend. Uncheck that fucking buff in your roll 20.
Oh,
It's
yes.
gone. It's gone.
Oh my gosh, everything's gonna change on my sheet. Paranoia, keep on till sane again. Let's see what happens.
Is that how I labeled it?
That's exactly how you labeled it. Let's look and see just how many things changed. Oh my gosh,
Everything
look at all
on your
those
sheet.
skills. So many skills are so much better.
Oh, so many things that you used to be good at, you're now good at again. And then Dora. We can start checking for her on the 23rd. So Dabs can prepare lesser restoration.
Absolutely.
Great.
I rolled a natural 1 for an 8.
Let's check for the 24th.
17.
And on that day, the delusion that has been hounding Dora since chapter 18, right? It was chapter 17 that you rolled the 17.
Yeah,
Yes. So since chapter 17/18, her mind totally clears. And that horrible delusion that has been just debilitating you in the back of your mind lifts. So how has this time been spent for Dora?
Dora has been studying the Necrotic manuscripts.
How many days of reading does that require?
7.
Oh, so it is done. And what does that grant you?
Gets a +4 bonus on knowledge checks regarding conjuration magic
Yeah.
or the gods and magic of the old cults.
Amazing. Fantastic. And this little window opened up on the last day we were moving slowly through, where Dora found an answer to a question left in her notes by Tima. Does Dora tease this out? Does she attempt to write anything else to Tima?
Yes, she does. I'm assuming she will do it as it's been done by writing it in the right-hand margin of the notes.
Mm-hmm.
She writes the question, do you never tire of deflection and projection?
She does find a response.
Do you never tire of your falsely inflated sense of superiority. You are of this world, not above it. Your fingers are dirty. Your toes are covered in shit. You're boring me.
This happens, the questioning happens consciously. She deliberately does that.
Yeah.
As she is spending this time reading the narcotic manuscripts, she does find at the end of the day that she must have blacked out for a period of time when she wrote that, because she still has no conscious memory of writing that. If she wishes to keep on with that, you can go ahead and add another little question to your journal. We'll get back to it when we get back to it. Polly, so you are having Dabwick cast some Riverside every day, and I know you're preparing some scry spells. Is that the plan?
That's right. The idea is to prepare 2 Riverside spells, one for the morning shift and one for the evening shift. I'm feeling a little paranoid about this other ship. And preparing to scry.
During this period of time, that one morning on the 18th is the only time that Dabs catches sight of either the giant flea or the rat folk witch. Also during that time, there is no sight of the ship in front of you or behind you, and that that vacuum that had been left as all the fish had sort of retreated away from the wake of the bloodwind. We now have a name for it. As the wildlife had retreated from the bloodwind, they have come back during this period of time. And as this week stretches on, Dabs is left with more of a feeling of like, okay, the natural world is filling in that vacuum.
Can Dabwick cast Speak with Animals to ask the fish if they've seen the boat?
Oh my god, druids. Let me read that fucking spell.
That's a lower level spell here. You can ask questions and receive answers from animals, but the spell doesn't make them any more friendly than normal. Wary and cunning animals are likely to be terse and evasive, while more stupid ones make inane comments.
So I do think, yes, on a couple of days, Dabs is able to find some more friendly, less inane schools of, pike? You find some friendly, above average
Lake pike
that you can question, and they have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Nothing crazy or weird except for all the giant things down below, and so some scum, and all the normal things that we see.
Thanks, guys.
I love you, Dab.
Love you too. Bye.
And you're gonna do some scrying every day.
Yeah.
Who are you gonna scry every day?
I think it only makes sense to try and scry Phaedrak and scry the flea.
So, let me see.
The 8 chances.
So you have heard of the subject? Okay, let me check. Phaedrak's will save. Ooh, interesting. On the first day, Dabwick, give me a caster level check. This spell is subject to spell resistance. And one thing you know about denizens of Leng, they got spell resistance.
That is a 15.
The spell fails. Give me 7 more rolls. Let me know if you hit 19.
Yes, 1. 2. No. 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 That was 5.
2 more.
Yes. No.
Ah, the clack of dice.
Click clack.
Oh, okay. And... Oh, no.
Oh, God.
It gets
I am traumatized by scrying.
+5. And then the flea. Okay, so here's the story of this span of time. You are fairly regularly able to check in on the flea, and you're able to basically deduce that the flea is, even though you don't catch sight of it with river sight, following somewhere between, on some days, like a mile or so behind the ship, maybe some days more like 4 or 5 miles, but in environs that you recognize as you look out on the days that you can see the shoreline, definitely following along. Some days you catch sight of the witch with it, some days you catch sight of it by itself. I would say about half the time one or the other notices the sensor and then just simply adopts the habit of doing nothing but standing still or sitting still and staring at you. They're absolutely, definitely following you. You never catch sight of Vedrak, and on a bunch of days you can kind of just feel the tendrils of magical potential slipping out of your fingertips as you stare over the side of the rail into the lake, where it's like the sensor is being formed, the mists are clearing, you almost have this pool vision, and then it just fades out, and Dabs knows it's because they failed to penetrate spell resistance. But there are a couple of days where the scrying sensor fully manifests, and you do not still catch sight of Vedrak. Give me everybody who has ranks in it can give me a spellcraft check here, because I'm assuming you're discussing this with the...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Great.
31.
21.
Also a 21.
Okay. So maybe on this particular day, and this was the day that Dora was able to shed her madness. So maybe she is hanging out with you specifically as you're doing this one, and you're almost catching sight of this being. And Dora, as she's racking her brain on how scrying works, and gosh, it really felt like you had him that time. He's not on this plane of existence. There is an extra bonus that they get to their will saves to make it extra special hard to scry on somebody off this plane, and that's Dora's guess about what's going on this particular span of time.
So they're sailing through the plane of dreams.
That seems very likely. Or Plateau of Lang, yeah. But they're not on the material plane. It seems like during this week.
So they're not necessarily following us right now, as far as we know.
Based on everything that Dabs has learned, yeah, your guess is that they're elsewhere doing something else at the moment. Probably somewhere in the dimension of dreams. How does Dabs's meditation go during this span?
Dabwick's meditation continues to get more challenging for them, and starting to feel a little even reluctant to go into meditation because it gets so dark. Dabwick is out on the edge of the boat, this time on side closer to land, and sees a distant haze in the air growing a little larger, but it's nothing dangerous. It's a murmuration of starlings shifting north to west to south, these beautiful curving swells and ebbs, and Dabwick admiring the shapes. They understand starlings really well, and at the moment they're watching the birds with some envy, because knowing that starlings are fiercely independent thinkers when they aren't flocking reminds Dabwick that for the moment, at least, they've got themselves conscripted into the worst adventure imaginable. And no matter how much they imagined they could walk away before, they are well past that now. They've been woven into the grand tapestry. Dabwick pictures their modest apartment in the ship merchant's alleyway in the Greyguard Shadow District in Casimir, the little life they were carving out for themselves. It all seemed so small now. The little pallet of furs, the little desk and chair, unmatched, little scavenged furniture, all of it. And their little act of faith, leaving the door unlocked every night. Such a silly little thing to purposely leave your front door unlatched, but Dabwick took a little mark of pride in their ability to trust that they had nothing to fear. Naive. You stupid dum-dum. You knew nothing. Their head throbs, pulses.
You are nothing.
Dabwick winces. They realize that they hope the others aren't talking about them. That they don't plan on leaving Dabwick and Casimir and going on without them. Of course, they wouldn't do that, right? Not now. Not now that the seed of God has been planted in me brains. They can't abandon old Dabs now. But it would make sense, wouldn't it? Grip seems to understand, but he's part of the bigger picture. Of course, he's closer to Dora and Vic, naturally. Vic, who was so kind to speak up, but he can't really be that attached to old Dabwick after all he's done. And Dora, bless the dear, perfectly friendly, but not always so nice, is she? Couldn't we just imagine her coldly walking away should Dabwick come between her and her studies? Dabwick stifles back a sob and opens their eyes. The starlings are still there in the distance, murmuring and swooping chaotic forms. The dance looks almost violent to Dabwick now, like a creature's flesh tearing from the inside out over and over and over again. I could be any spare part they picked up along the way. Stasi or Barnabas could just as easily step in and take my place in the group. At least Barnabas could sing for them, inspire them. Or Stasi can be that slick one that gets them the win at the last second. What have I got? Frog legs. Fire sneeze. Hold the door, summon a bat. Pfft, useless. Flippin' joke. They take a deep breath in quickly and slowly let it out. Gotta push that thought down. Gotta push a thought back down, back into the back of the head. Push it into the blot, taking root in Dabwick's brain tissue. Whether the thought originated there or not, it's as good a place as any for these thoughts to be kept safe, preciously cared for, and offered up to God.
And I love what the story of your spellcasting is telling this week. You insisted that everybody stop and pause so you could get information, and you spend an entire week with magic and learning and scrying just slipping through your fingers like water, like shadow, except every single day you stare at the foul underbelly of the giant flea of Jamin Dor. That's the only constant in your days. Meanwhile, on the 18th, Gripper's flipping axes on the deck of the ship.
Oh, little Moulinaise. I mean, I don't know. He's just feeling what they feel like again. It's been a while.
So remind me, Robert, how many times in his current life he's handled an axe?
I guess none.
So he doesn't really know the weight. He doesn't
Probably
know.
not. He's probably out of practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he is out of practice. I think he hits the sail.
Yeah, yeah, he probably does.
Also, everybody
Slashing.
knows that to stay away from him with slashing weapons, so everybody has to be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yes, and
anybody that had any semblance of knowing him from before or heard things about him would be like, oh, is the laughing tyrant back?
oh god. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so as you tear the sail, so on that day Vic's working away on his project, we'll hear about shortly, and you see the pudgy middle-aged halfling man looks very gnome-like. He's always just bundled up in heavy coats. He's always freezing cold. Here's that picture for y'all just to remind you who this is. Reuben Goodearth comes barreling out of the cabin.
What are you doing, you stupid big lug? This is not... I have to fix this, you know. This is not... Oh, no.
It just got away from me for a minute. I'm sorry, ma'am. It was just an accident, for fuck's sake.
This is not your labor that will have to be used to fix the mistake. You have just cost me half a day of work.
Goodearth, I can help.
I don't know if you know what happened to the last person that talked to me with the tone with which you are speaking right now. And Grip is fucking furious that no one has talked to him like that in so long.
He walks right up to you. He comes up to your waist. He's pressing a meaty little annoying halfling finger.
This is not for you to ruin the work of your crewmates. You show no respect. You do not belong on this ship.
And the last time he pokes a little fucking finger right in his chest, he rears back and goes, "You fucking son of a..." and he stops in mid rear back.
Yeah.
And he sees the look of horror on Dabwick's face.
Yeah.
And he sees the eyes of everybody, all these little people staring up at him, and he has that moment of, is it a child? Is it a dog? Is it what am I looking at? And he just lets out this howl of rage and full on punches the mast of the ship, and then walks to the front of the boat.
Yeah.
And just starts staring at the water.
Katzen has come up from below by the end of this, has seen Dabwick attempting to intervene. I don't believe that you're on duty right now, are you, Dabs? You're relieved.
Thank you, ma'am.
She lets Grip calm down a little bit. She comes up next to him. Well now, Grip, you'll be taking watch tonight by yourself.
Aye.
And you will report for duty tomorrow afternoon.
Yes, ma'am.
And you will continue to do so until I say otherwise.
Understood.
Get out of my sight, sailor.
Aye.
So that night,
Do you leave? Do you walk away?
He goes to a different part of the ship. He's still staring across the water.
As you walk past Stasi, who is standing there stoically smoking, she doesn't try to stop you. She says, "Better out than in, I always say."
I see the logic of that. He's much calmer now. I was like, how much time has passed? Like, since...
how far along do you want to move? Oh, you know what? You're in an afternoon shift. You're on the deck. This is probably heading into this is heading into the evening, and everybody normally takes rotation shifts and watch through the night, and now it's all on you. Everybody goes to bed and trust you as the one person keeping eyes out all night, not sleeping. And Montcalm would be the only person on deck swabbing away as you're by yourself, keeping watch all night this night.
So he's looking out over the water, and he just starts giggling a little to himself. Not the laugh of the laughing tyrant, not the laugh of madness. He's giggling.
At some point during this, Vic would have taken an extractive blend and moved into sort of like your shadow, not saying anything, not letting you know that he's there.
Oh, just keeping an eye on him?
Just keeping an eye on him.
Mm-hmm.
So giving him space, but
I can smell you there, Vic.
Yeah.
being aware.
It's the damnedest thing. I think I've just invented something.
Doesn't say anything.
The rage hit me. No one had talked to me like that since, well, who the fuck knows when, right? All I wanted to do was hit someone or something. But then a funny thing happened. I started staring out over the water. And then I imagined that water was a great desert. A great gray desert. And I just looked at these waves that had now turned into an ocean of sand dunes, and I tried to picture what the wind blowing on that dune looked like. And then I focused things a little bit closer, and I thought, all right, we'll just look at the top of that dune, and what must that sound like? And then I focused it even closer to just one little fucking grain of sand. And what must the wind sound like that is just blowing that one little grain of sand? And then do you know what happened, Vic? I didn't want to fucking hit anyone anymore. I think I've invented something very special. I can't imagine anyone's ever thought to do this before.
So at this point, since Johnny said Vic was staying quiet, you do notice that Montcamus, because you're just talking, you're seemingly talking to yourself, Montcamus has moved out. He's kind of leaning on his mop, staring up at you. What do you call it?
What?
This thing you've invented?
Oh,
What do you call it?
well, I haven't got that far.
I'm pretty good at naming things.
Well, what do you think?
Shit, I forgot. Well, I'll be thinking about it.
All right, yeah, I'm not so good with the naming things, so it should have a name, though, shouldn't it?
I hear you're going to be up here for a while, so we can talk about this another night.
All right then.
I gotta get back to work.
Yeah, aye, me too.
Talk to you later, Constable.
No, sailor.
Right. Sailor, shit. He goes back to work.
Greg goes back to watch.
He's Nyx.
I'll give you
Yes.
Called you.
better Nyx than Daggerbath.
Grip spends several nights on watch by himself. By the time we pick back up, you're allowed to take your normal rotation through the evening. But yeah, there is this wait for this stretch of time where it's a weird sort of punishment, but the idea is putting the sole responsibility for the lives of everyone in the ship into your hands to hopefully give you a sense of the value of those lives and the damage that can be caused by breaking that kind of trust. And I think that's the way that Katzen would, well, she'd lay that out to you when she lets you go back to work.
And I think he would wait until that moment and then would make a round of apologies. Like once he has been let back, kind of.
Yeah. So he's a little quiet in his duties for a few days.
Yeah.
Until his conversation with Katzen, and then he makes a point of talking to folks. Okay, great. Yeah, love it. And finally, what's up with Vic in these 8 days?
Vic would definitely spend some time learning the Dreamlands ritual.
All right, so taking 5 8-hour blocks
5 8-hour blocks
to be the
make sure
primary caster, just like Dora now has the ability to do. Great.
just in case something happens to Dora,
Yep.
so that he is a backup to her.
Done and done.
Spends a few more days working on researching his new formula.
Okay, yes.
But then the bulk of that time is spent finishing up the alchemical torch.
Talk to me about this.
So the first thing he had to do way back when was actually craft a brand new alchemical torch. And he had gotten some adamantine
Yep.
to craft it.
Yep.
Adamantine is like this big, thick, heavy, like it's not a pretty metal. And so in my mind, this thing that he's made doesn't look sleek or smooth. It looks like unfinished somehow, and it looks ugly. Like the old alchemical torch that he still has.
Elegant, very elegant.
Is very elegant.
Yeah.
This looks like a club with knobs on it.
Yeah. And because it's made of adamantine, almost unbreakable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once he's got that made, he has to actually start enchanting it.
Yeah.
And he's never enchanted anything before. So this is all sort of like figuring out his way and figuring out how to do it. And he starts taking some of the magic items that he's actually taken along the way. So he takes, for example, the War Razor from the Tatterman. And in this enchanting, takes the enchantment out of the War Razor and puts it into this new alchemical torch.
And this bond you've had with this weapon that you've used it in life or death situations now for weeks.
Mm-hmm. And
transferring that energy.
And also that it's not a pretty weapon. It wasn't used for good purposes.
Right.
He takes the light mace from Ulver Xandalus.
Yeah.
And how long that was like held by someone who was like fighting off madness.
Yeah.
And trying to hold on to what they thought was the right thing. And like literally those two weapons sort of representing those two people.
Yeah.
One who is trying to sort of hold on and hold back, and the other one who had descended fully and was, in fact, a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
He takes some of the items from Iris Hill.
Mm-hmm.
The jewelry box.
Yeah.
The hag gemstone.
Yeah.
Horflame.
Oh. You're melting down Horflame to incorporate it into this weapon.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, I've technically, according to the rules as written, investigators can't take the enchant, magic, weapon, and armor feat because they're not technically spellcrafters. Johnny and I thought that's bullshit, but wanted to sort of address how might this person who doesn't actually create magic, and we're envisioning this world where when he is using this feat, he's leeching power out of other items of significance and reconfiguring them, transforming them into a new object with a new enchantment and a new life that is culled from his essence, and then the power of the memories of these items of significance that all go into it, so that any item that he creates in this period of time where he's got this feat are going to be imbued with this spirit of power, not just from him.
Oh yeah,
but from all this.
The stuff, the
conflict
tinkering,
that's come
the stuff
before.
that he's taken and like turned into this thing. And there is sort of it does have like a handle where your hand goes, and if you look closely enough at it, you notice that it does appear to have sort of like an ivory handle on either side.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look closer at it, you realize it's not actually ivory; it's a little bit of bone. And is
this from the shattered dagger?
No,
okay.
Not from the shattered dagger.
Okay.
He remembers, he has two memories. He has the memory of Ray's body being sort of tucked away and stuff and hidden and sneaking in like the night before it was to be burned, and looking at it and thinking about Ray, and he had gone in there with the intention of taking part of Ray to incorporate into this.
Mm-hmm.
But he gets there and he can't do it. And then he remembers there's still a little bit of the body of Dr. Vaticus.
God. Oh, God.
And so he makes his way back.
Yeah.
And like combs through like the burnt remnants until he finds a thigh bone.
Yeah.
And shaves just enough pieces of it off so that he can put it.
Finish the hilt.
Finish the handle.
Yeah.
And so it's this sort of like pitted, burnt, ugly thing. And if you look closely enough at it, if you turn it over on the underside of it, it has scratched in, again, very not well engraved, not prettily done. It says vanity.
That's the name of the weapon.
That's the name of the weapon.
All right.
Nice.
Vic has to succeed at a DC 16 spellcraft check. Give me that roll.
That is a 20.
Tell us what vanity is.
Vanity is a +2 distance alchemical torch.
Awesome. So cool.
What is distance?
It doubles the range of the pistol.
Nice.
So it's going to make him be able to strike against touch AC for how that, like 45 feet away now?
40 feet.
Wow.
Amazing.
Just by itself, not without, you had like Do you have a feat or something that lets you, or grit or something that lets you extend the touch?
If I extend the touch range, then all of a sudden it goes from 40 feet to 80 feet.
So that is now on the table.
Wow. Yeah.
80-foot touch.
But
AC.
it used to be 20 feet.
That's so cool.
Wow.
And then, on the evening of the 24th day of Nath, day 14 of this journey, mile 130, after Dabs prepares their spells, we all gather to perform our first occult ritual.
Yes.
Tell you what, why don't I move your little ship
I was
on the
just
map?
looking.
I was just going to ask if you were going to move.
Are you all ready for it?
Yes.
Look at that shit. So that's like the first visible on this giant map, visible distance that you've actually jumped.
How exciting.
Oh, I can make this visible too. There is where the lighthouse was. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
So, where do we do this? Do we do this on the deck? Do we do this down in the hold? Do we want the others to watch and experience this and see it? Do we want to keep it out of view?
I think on the deck feels very exposed to.
I think that we would want to make sure that
outsiders?
if anybody was watching us and going, oh, now's the time to attack them, we would not want them to know that. But we would certainly, anybody that was in the crew we would have let the captain know what was going on. We would be very clear about that we are not going to be able to be woken up for the next 6 to 8 hours.
And that Stasi and Barnabas are your go-tos now. Like once the four of you drop, if you do drop, that they are. Ooh, this is exciting. Okay, so below decks on the Sullen Starling, Dora, Vic, Dabwick, Grip, Stasi, and Barnabas sit cross-legged in a packed little circle between these towering columns of stacked magical hardwood. Katie, let's start adding up some bonuses that everyone's going to be able to get. For each 4 secondary casters you have, all skill checks to attempt the ritual get a +1 bonus.
We're the only 4 that will be asleep, right? The other casters are not subject to that.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
They can take damage, though, can't they?
Yes.
Not can. Will. Whether the ritual fails or succeeds, everyone involved will take 2d6 damage. All right, so we have enough secondary casters to give you a +1 bonus. So all skill checks made in this ritual will get a +1 bonus for the amount of secondary casters you have. Each caster that also has the ability to cast spells adds another +1 bonus to all skill checks for each 5 levels of a spell casting class they have. Over the course of the 50-minute casting time, 5 checks are going to have to be made. 2 DC 25 Knowledge Arcana checks and 3 DC 25 Knowledge Planes checks. Anybody can make those checks, but you'll want to decide who is going to be doing so.
Dora will be at a +20.
I mean, that's got me beat, but are we able to assist with those checks? Are we able to aid those?
There is
You are
absolutely...
doing the ritual is aiding in and of itself.
I mean, if you're +20 on both of those, that's better than... I mean, I've got 7 plus 1d6 and 7 plus 1d6, so you're higher than me automatically.
All right. So down the road, this may become a matter of, we're going to have different checks in the mix. And also, if you ever get interrupted while things are going on, somebody might have to make a check for somebody that can't. So...
Jeez.
Burst of Insight, not applicable here, I take it.
Bonuses on the skill checks required for the ritual that are granted by feats. Spells with enough duration to last throughout the entire casting. Traits and magic items apply. So you have to have a spell that has a 50-minute duration to have it be relevant here.
+20 it is.
+20 it is. You all sit down in a circle below the decks. You sit around a single lit candle as Dora takes out this immaculately crafted miniature staircase of horn and ivory with 70 individual steps on it. And then Dora takes it in her hand and individually feels every single one of the 70 steps, and she starts spouting absolute terrifying gibberish. She is speaking in this primordial ritualistic language that transcends arcane magic, that transcends divine magic, that transcends psychic magic. She is using words that tug at the fabric of reality, and she passes the staircase over to Vic, who takes it in his hands, feels every single one of the 70 steps, to Dabs, every single one of the steps, and so around the circle. When it gets back to Dora, it weighs about 5 pounds. You feel every single one of those steps and continue passing it around the circle. And as this ritual progresses, as this tiny little staircase enters each of your hands, it gets heavier and heavier to the point where some of you can barely lift it. Let's make 2 checks here. Let's say about 20 minutes have gone by. What do you want to start with there, Dora?
It doesn't really matter.
All right, let's start with Arcana.
27.
Success. Minute 20, give me your second Arcana check.
27.
Success. At this point, not only when the staircase hits your hand does it feel heavier, it is physically growing larger. By the time we hit the 30-minute mark, it's like you're holding like a pit bull-sized, like an 80-pound dog-sized set of stairs, and you're having to run your fingers down all of these stairs, which gets, at least that's the one part that gets a little easier as you pass it around, because it's not just little fiddly tiny little steps. At the 30-minute mark, give me a Knowledge Planes check, Dora.
I'm going to use my +2 floating planes check from the Chain of Knights.
You can afford to fail 2 of these. You only have to make a total of 3 successful checks.
Oh, really?
Yep. And that's a one-time bonus that's gone forever, right?
Okay, then I won't do that.
Okay.
I get a 24.
All right, we got 1 fail. The staircase keeps going around and around, and it used to be passed from hand to hand, and now it is passed by gripping your entire body around it and kind of rolling it into the next person's lap. We get to the 40-minute mark. Give me another planes check.
24?
Do you want to use an action point on that?
Yeah, I will use an action point on that, and I succeed.
So at this moment, the weight of talking for 40 straight minutes in this language that doesn't exist, as reality is bending all around you, like her brain is just like wavering. She had a funky moment about halfway through. She just gets her head wrapped around it. The staircase passes around and around. Give me that last check.
29.
And after 50 minutes, as this staircase passes, let's say, from Grip back to Dora, it is suddenly bigger than you, and you have no control over it. You drop it out of your hands, and as it lands with a slam onto the bottom of this ship, there is suddenly a dark and gloomy staircase descending down into nothingness. They are normal, human-sized stairs right now. All of you lean over, staring down that, and then there is this spasm in the air as everything goes like totally thin and wispy. There's a pulse. Dora, you take 10 points of damage. Victor, you take 4 points of damage. Dabwick, you take 11 points of damage. Grip, you take 3 points of damage. You just feel your actual physical bodies start to unravel. You're bleeding in weird places. And all of you feel incredibly sleepy. And you know that all you have to do is walk down those stairs and you will enter the dimension of dreams.
Dora gets up and walks down the stairs.
Dora leaves this plane of existence. Her body falls asleep on the deck of the ship.
Vic gets up and follows Dora.
Victor leaves this dimension body falls asleep.
Dabwick finds their way to the stairs and starts going down the stairs.
Tabuk leaves this mortal coil as their body falls asleep. Grip is looking at Barnabas, looking at Stasi.
Well, see you on the other side. And he goes.
Grip descends. And that's the end of chapter 94. We will meet again in the Dimension of Dreams next time. Dark Nexus is a creation of Plug and Hum Productions. This podcast uses trademarks and/or copyrights owned by Paizo Incorporated, which are used under Paizo's community use policy. We are expressly prohibited from charging you to use or access this content. This podcast is not published, endorsed, or specifically approved by Paizo Inc. For more information about Paizo's community use policy, please visit paizo.com/communityuse. And for more information about Paizo and Paizo products, please visit paizo.com. That's PAIZO.com. Dark Nexus uses music and soundscapes by Sirenscape. Check them out at sirenscape.com. That's SYRINSCAPE.com. Opening and closing themes, along with additional music, composed by Rob Kauzlaric. Artwork for Dark Nexus is by Matt Wahlquist. Special thanks to Toy, without whose generosity this project would not have been possible. And thanks to DMCP, Richard and Ari, Paul and Shannon, Chris, Scotty, Jason, Jess, Joe, Chelsea, Matt, Dave, Darren, and everyone we've gamed with over the years for all the memories and inspiration.
Click the tab. Click the skills. Can you find skills?
Stop. Oh my god. Did you? Yes. Did you find that? Click the skills. Find the skills. Find the skills.
Are you looking on your sheet?
Are you even in
Have you
Roll20,
tried
bro?
turning it off and turning it on again?
Oh, I didn't mean to click tell me more. God damn it.